Anything, any other? Relaxed consistency. Who said relaxed integrity and consistency? He talked about relaxed consistency and integrity. So if you can live with relaxed consistency and integrity, you can have a better scalable database, right? That is one great definition. Any other definition other than these four definitions? Distributed, raw, special purpose data types, web scale, relaxed consistency. Anything else? I think this... Schemalessness also. Yeah. Schemaless is the sixth point. And seventh point I would include what Dinesh said, which is not having to work with a single model called relational and then trying to use ORM and stuff like that, which is inherently impedance mismatch, right? Which are of inherently impedance mismatch. Trying to choose what is so natural for your applications. I think those are the 7 characteristics that greatly summarizes noSql, right? So great definition, guys. I think this is by far the best definition I've heard for noSql. So I think everybody has answered the first round. So let's go into the second round and we will see whether somebody can be made as a victim. The second question, we will have to make it very fast. Just tell the use case and just one line. What is the use case that you think will suit well for noSql? Which use case do you think suits MySQL better? Sorry, noSql better.
Characteristics or the actual application?
An application. Any example application. Like for example, you could say Twitter. I've obviously said the obvious. So you could say Twitter or any other example that you can think of.
So anything which shares the bigness of data and the massive write performance which is required, like Twitter, where you need to write thousands of messages, and Facebook, where you need to write the thousands of wall posts. So you would need it.
Social applications, right? So social application, just one word, one application, only one is allowed, and then the definition of the application. He rose the hand first, so I'll give it to him.
This point we discussed by Suresh earlier also, because we developed a trading application. So there we used a kind of, it's not noSql, we use flat file. So I would give the same point for that.
Trading.
Yeah, financial trading.
The Android market. We have loads of things spread over geographical locations. We need distributed things, and we need the performance at a better thing. So the Android market is the best use case.
Any SaaS model which can have huge read and write.
I mean, application dealing with data migration stuff. So now you have a schemaless support. Okay, so if each and every client of mine is giving me data in a different format. Okay, I don't have to sit and change all that data into a particular format and do it. Rather, I can go for schemaless, like document oriented noSql.
Yeah, anything where there is real time involved, then real time matching involved, then we'll obviously find that you need to do some kind of noSql.
Yeah, I think what's probably going to happen is, I think every use case will be done. I think every use case, see the early days of noSql, right? So people are trying to find sweet spot use cases right now. Once it gets mainstream, noSql will be the most cost efficient way to do any database storage applications in a distributed computing style. If you want to use a distributed storage and store data, you would end up using noSql, because that will be the cost per transaction, that will be the cheapest. And people will try to use those specific use cases right now, because you're trying to get some sweet spot attention. After some time, it will probably become the default paradigm. Commoditized.
Just throwing a spanner at this whole thing, saying every use case is possible with noSql once noSql becomes mainstream. Now, this is going to create a lot of anger among the SQL guys. If it has not triggered, it should trigger now. He's saying everything can be replaced by noSql. Yeah. And by the way, Krishna Kumar's definition was also good. Multi-tenant applications where each tenant has its own data structure, where schemaless is very useful.
Just, going for the Facebook route, where we don't define whether this application should use noSql. Rather, you see a portion of your application which would inherit noSql, go for it. like what Facebook did. If messaging is like high volume transaction data, and if Facebook thinks MySQL would not actually able to control that, go for that. So instead of making a decision for the whole application, make it for the feature that you want to go for MySQL.
So again, great use cases. But now is the judgment time, as I mentioned. So which one did you choose? NoSQL or SQL, right? And why? So we'll see how many of you after this session got converted versus stood against, or somebody is answering this question very intelligently. We'll see what each one has to say, right? What's your vote?
Okay, I choose SQL because I come from the enterprise computing. I work with applications like payroll where the dot is important. I can't sacrifice consistency, and they are also mission critical. I can't sacrifice availability.
Anybody else? Oh, everybody has to vote.
Oh, everybody?
SQL versus NoSQL.
No,
Why?
I already said, right? It should be a combination of both.
It should be a combination of both. It depends on the use case.
I vote the same.
See, as of now, any mission critical applications like banking transactions where we need this ACID compliance to be, ensured 100%, I'll go for SQL. And the applications like social apps, business application where there is no mission critical data, that kind of database, I think I can go for NoSQL.
You said SAS.
Yeah, SAS. I said SAS business application which doesn't have critical data to be stored, and this transactions to be ACID compliant. So maybe I could try citrus leaf to be ACID compliant on top of NoSQL.
That's
what I said the last point.
Okay, I would require MySQL as well as NoSQL, because coming to the Android market, it has user relation mapping to whatever the sales or downloads or whatever it, and I need to scale my application, which my NoSQL is going to do. So I need a combination of both.
First, you'll have to check if you actually are going to need that availability. Right, most applications if you're building right now, right, you're probably not going to hit up on a Facebook scale or a Twitter scale. So if it's the difference between spending 1 or 2 months getting yourself up to speed on some NoSQL technology and then building it, or churning out a prototype in a couple of days using SQL that you already know, then obviously you'll have to pick the one that gives you shortest turnaround time right now. Because obviously you can pretty much, like even Twitter did the same thing, right? You can shoot out a prototype fast using stuff you already know, and then you can rewrite when you really do need availability, because that's a good problem to have, right? Your site going down because too many people are using it. It's a good problem to have. So you'll wait for it till you actually get to
prefer to use SQL because it's a proven kind of thing. So when you go for a customer, they'll ask only for proven things. Only a new vendor, new startup which comes up, they'll risk. Enterprises like that, they'll have always they won't like to risk, because it's data is bread and butter for any company, so they'll go only for SQL. I prefer to use SQL at this point of time.
I'm from the startup world, so I would go with UV's reasoning that it's better to stick in the SQL world when you're small, and when you're really bound on resources. I would prefer to stick in the SQL era, and then when we have good problems to deal with, we go on to the emerging.
I'll just stay with SQL as of now, because I've been using SQL, and especially as I said in my first statement, I like the structured way of organizing the data. And as far as NoSQL is concerned, only when we are using multiple amounts, there's millions